So many of you probably recognize that song in the beginning of this video as Hammer Hippia from the band Heithen. Now this song is very aggressive and very upbeat, and it's often played at the very end of their shows. And so it's really meant to get the blood pumping, everyone's moving, everyone's dancing, all the warriors on stage are dancing. It's kind of the release of the trance. And so one might think that this is a very aggressive battle type song, but in reality it's very similar to the name that Heithen stands for in the first place, which is healing, because the song Hammer Hippia is actually a song about healing and comes from an old charm from Germany that was meant to heal wounds. And so this kind of research and looking into the song is really what spurred this video and this topic, which is talking about Old Norse or Old Germanic or Old World healing spells and if they're still prevalent today. So thank you for joining me here at McConnell Springs in Lexington, where we're going to talk about Old Norse healing magic. So actually what Heithen based the song Hammer Hippia off of is the second charm in the Merseburg charms from Germany. Now these lucky charms come from around the 10th century in Germany and survive in the Old Germanic. So what the song is actually based on is the second charm, and it goes as follows. It's very quick and it's very small. Like bone sprain, so blood sprain, so joint sprain, bone to bone, blood to blood, joints to joints, so may they be mended. And that's it. Like if you actually look, like that song is 13 minutes. Like look at, this is the lyrics of the song. That is it right there. It is literally like 12 lines, and for the most part the song repeats Hanga Dvira Mingya over and over again. Interestingly enough, Hanga Dvira Mingya means hang the animals. Now this actually is kind of part of the healing spell in a way, maybe not necessarily from the Merseburg, but one of the things we do know about offerings and sacrifices, at least when it pertains to healing, is that animals were sacrificed for it, and they were most likely hung and, you know, let the blood drain out. I mean, much like you would butcher an animal. And so this leaving the offering, hang the animals, is leaving an offering for the healing spell. Now, interestingly enough, the second Merseburg charm comes in many different variations. So many of them actually being Christian variations. So this is something that survived in multiple iterations that have existed for hundreds of years, even after the pagan era had ended in Germany. In fact, this from the 10th century, the majority of people, the vast majority of people in Germany at the time of this being written were most likely Christian. So the chances are this second Merseburg charm is actually a Christian writing, which is really interesting. Now, luckily, I do have some knowledge coming from Germany, having been there very recently, and to tell you, those people are still very pagan. Many of them just don't even realize it, which is why I'm here at this spring. So I'm here at this spring in Lexington because a spring like this would actually be considered like a healing well in Germany, or at least in Old World Germany. And that's something that has actually survived Christianization, because so many people still went to these healing wells after Christianization that they actually had to make them a Christian thing. They had to name them something like, you know, St. Nicholas's healing well, you know, St. Marguerite's healing well. But at the end of the day, they were pagan. And I actually was able to visit one of these healing wells, these healing springs in Germany while there. It was called the Three Sisters Healing Well, and this comes from the Three Beatons. Now, I'm going to explore this in a larger video, probably when I go back, but it was really fascinating. You know, we had to kind of track this down off of a website, off of a blog, to find this healing spring, and it was a little disappointing in the sense that it wasn't that big. But at the end of the day, most springs are not that big, much like the springs here. You know, this is basically it. But still, springs are very interesting because they're, you know, there's water coming from the earth, and so it does seem to have a magical property. In fact, while we continue this conversation, I'm going to head down here, which is one of the more interesting water features I have seen, especially when it comes to a well, and definitely has some magical vibes. Seriously, isn't this kind of cool? This is a naturally occurring fountain. So all that water coming from where we were just at goes underground over here and then shoots back up over here and then filters down the rest of the river. Now, I should add here that fountains and healing springs and wells are not unique to just Germany. For the most part, across Europe, there is this history of healing wells and healing springs across the islands, across Britain, across Scandinavia, and all of Europe. And many of them were just changed to some form of Catholic name afterwards. Now, as far as my personal experiences at the well in Europe, there was definitely evidence that people still use this as a healing system. In fact, we saw people collecting the water from it while we were still there, and there were stories, very few stories online, of people still using them. Yes, it seems neglected, but at the same time, people have chosen to come here to leave offerings in some form of ritualistic way because of the presence of this water. Now, it may not be as powerful as it once was, but there still is a faint memory of a pagan tradition that may go back hundreds and hundreds of years. For the most part, what I can find about healing wells, and in particular the healing well I saw in Germany, is that it's good for the eyes, to wash the face, wash the eyes, to cleanse small wounds, and do stuff like that. And a lot of the times these healing wells are found to have some form of mineral that actually does help in healing process. So oftentimes there is science behind it. Now, there are signs here that says, do not drink the water specifically, so I'm not really sure, but that means people definitely have tried. And normally springs are a good source of water and a good source of, minerals and just getting the natural minerals from the earth and stuff like that. The problem is, and I would assume why they don't let you drink the water here, maybe just a rule, but there is an asphalt company literally on top of this hill now. If you might be able to hear them throughout this video, which is really disappointing considering the fact that this used to be a dairy farm. Like, all the rock walls and foundations here used to be a dairy farm that used this water as well. So I guarantee you that was some pretty special milk. We also don't just see healing magic and healing wells within, pagan Europe. We see it all across the world, in particular in India. The Ganges is still considered very sacred and holy and healing river. I mean, people still flock to the Ganges. I mean, millions of people every single year go there to bathe themselves in the water, even though the water also contains dead people because of stuff they do there. But they still go there to wash and cleanse themselves to hopefully heal themselves. So the idea of healing magic within waters has not escaped the world. It definitely doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. And I would definitely say, water, we are water. Water is all around us. Water is necessary for a healthy body. So water, yes, has healing properties. I just don't know if it's any magical, spiritual kind. Oftentimes, again, we find that the reason that they have healing properties is because of natural elements. But again, it's cool that the ancestors saw those things in that water. They discovered those things when they found things like this. So yeah, I think there's healing properties to water. Do I think it's going to magically make things disappear? Probably not. But I don't think we should discount the healing properties of wells and springs across the world. Just wanted to take a brief break in this video to say thank you so much for joining me for it. I hope you're enjoying some of these views of this very interesting park. But if you're enjoying the content here, the Wisdom of Odin, even more, please think about donating to Patreon. I have a lot of really great rewards there as well, including our community Discord, live streams, early access videos, and now a new book tier where you can learn about the book that I'm writing that should release later this year. Otherwise, we also have our community website launched this year where we have all of our community gatherings, including 2 listed now in the UK and the Netherlands, which are filling up very quickly. They are our first international gatherings, which is really exciting. We also will be doing the Hall fundraiser very soon, so make sure you follow us there, give us a like on Instagram, and sign up for that newsletter so you know when all the gatherings are happening and when we're doing that push for the land. And now, back to the video. Now, moving back towards the Nordic side of the world, actually talking about Old Norse healing magic, there is evidence in the Poetic Edda to suggest that old healing magic was a thing and was practiced. In fact, there is quite a large section within one of the lesser known stories talking about healing magic and runes. But first off, I do want to mention in the Havmal that Odin does say that he knows a spell for healing. It comes from stanza 147, where it just says, "I know a second spell which men need if they want to heal others." Of course, this is coming from Odin, a little bit less attainable, but again, it's interesting that it says which men need if they want to heal others, so that Odin knows a spell of healing. The other story that mentions healing magic within the Poetic Edda is Sigdrithfumal. This is the story of a Valkyrie giving information away, basically kind of very similar to the Havamal and how Odin does it, but she does go into more specific definitions of rune spells and gives us a really good look at what rune magic looks like. So in stanzas 9, 11, and 19, we get evidence of healing magic being mentioned, specifically about the runes. I'll just read them to you as follows. "You should learn life-saving runes if you want to save a woman's life when she is in the throes of childbirth. Carve them on your palm and clasp them around your limbs and pray to your family spirits for help. You should learn limb runes if you want to be a healer and learn how to heal wounds. Carve them on bark, carve them on needles of pine that bends eastward. The beech tree runes and life-saving runes and all beer runes and the famous strength runes will be good to use for everyone who knows them completely and correctly. Use them if you know them till the gods die." isn't that kind of a cool little section? Again, these are the things that I wish more people talked about. I mean, we have this Valkyrie basically listing out that runes are real, telling us that, you know, healing magic is real, that everyone should know them. There are correct ways to use them. And this definitely goes into the more folklore aspect of some, you know, like, you know, local healers and stuff like that. They have very specific requests for things, such as pine needles that bend eastward. I mean, that's very specific, and you got to carve runes onto that. So the idea of carving runes, you know, I don't know if that's just a translational thing for drawing runes. I'm not really sure. I would assume so, because I doubt you actually carve physically into your skin, you know, or I guess you do carve into bark. I'm not really sure. But I do like the line where it says, you know, use them if you know them until the gods die. That's a pretty epic line. So, but all of these pertain to runes, and I would have surmised that Odin's spells also involve runes, because we see that as well. So are runes practical in healing magic? It seems like it, and it seems like this is a thing a lot of people in the community use, at least in my close personal community, is using runes to represent and actually activate healing spells. I don't know any of these healing runes off the top of my head, but it does seem like if you are wanting to get into Old Norse healing magic, the runes are definitely where you want to start. I also believe it's important to mention that we do have a goddess of healing, or at least to some degree, only mentioned by Snorri within the Prose Edda, but Ýr, which is a handmaiden of Frigg, is mentioned as a great healer, or a great surgeon. We don't have any more information past that, but again, this is an interesting one to go to, and it seems like one that many people in the community go to as the goddess of healing. If you have medical problems in the family, you would pray and offer to Ýr. I have actually performed a healing ritual in my past, which is on this channel and I've talked about before, and I made an offering to Frigg for healing, and so this is kind of the way I see it, is going through Frigg to Ýr. And I think that's how I treat the relationship between Frigg and her handmaidens, is I call first to Frigg and then ask for one of her handmaidens. Now, this video wouldn't be complete without me sprinkling in a little bit of my shamanic learnings over the last year or so. There's a really great book called Way of the Shaman. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the author, and I forgot to write it down, but I'll put it right down here so you can look it up. It's a really great book written quite a long time ago about a man exploring South America and a lot of the shamanic practices there. The majority of them actually involve some form of healing magic and being tied to the power animal, or what we would probably know as the Fylgja, being tied to healing. And if it's connected with you, and if you're connected to your power animal, then it's harder for you to get sick. So this is another part of healing magic, that, you know, you would go into a shamanic trance with a guided, you know, an actual shaman, and they would help you get your power animal to give you vitality and to help you be more immune to physical pains and, you know, diseases. So, you know, again, healing magic is something that is global and something that people have sought after since the dawn of time. Now, again, obviously, you know, we have medical sciences now, and this has taken up a lot of what used to be the medicine men, the shamanic healers in the world, because now we can actually heal bones. We can do a lot with medicine. So I do definitely recommend, just like my story, you know, I went to doctors first, and I started seeking those medical routes, and when I wasn't finding answers there, that's when I turned to the more spiritual ones. And would I say, you know, 100% my ailment, you know, and everything was cured by the spiritual world and by magic? No, but did it help? I would say yes. You know, focusing, you know, and again, I focus a lot on teas, so a lot of herbal stuff as well, that, you know, helped me throughout my, you know, my condition. But again, I turned to the more spiritual side and, you know, saw where it guided me. You know, I again, swam in, you know, pristine Alp water and things like that, and it definitely made me feel more connected to healing magic and stuff like that. So again, I mention this all the time. It's like the jar of dirt. You know, at the end of the day, does it feel like it helps you? Then use it, and, you know, and keep that jar of dirt sacred. And it seems like water, runes, praying to gods and goddesses, this is something that humans have done since the dawn of time, and it's something we're still doing now in order to help us live throughout this life and help us when things go wrong, which they often do in our lives. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope I was able to provide a good amount of information on healing magic, the origins of it, some of the examples of it. I think, again, I definitely attach more towards real world things, you know, healing wells. I feel something, you know, like when I first saw that spring down there, I really felt something like this is special water. Again, I'm curious of why you shouldn't drink it right now. And I would assume, again, it's probably because of the asphalt company right above it. I mean, it's literally like right above it, like right here, wells right here, asphalt company. So I'm going to have to say it's something to do with that. Regardless, thank you once again for joining me for this video. Let me know what you thought down below, what you think about healing magic and what's helped you throughout your life. So best of luck out there. I know it's a crazy world, but truly, thank you so very much. And until the hall, Skål.